guys, welcome back to the Young Experience. I'm here with Mr. Joey Price of Jumpstart HR LLC. He's one of the local entrepreneurs in the DMV area. Welcome, Joey. How are you doing today?
I'm good, Josie. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for meeting with us. Definitely appreciate it. So just before we get to the meat and bones of everything, I just want to know, basically, did you grow up in this area? Just tell me a little bit about yourself.
Yeah, so whenever anyone asks me where did I grow up, it's always a trick question because my dad was in the Air Force. So we moved around quite a bit, but I was born in Texas and moved to Germany. So we lived there for about 5 years. And then when my dad retired, we moved to Bowie, Maryland, and that's where I got all of my education. And I've lived in Maryland since. Okay.
Can you tell me about what high school you went to and what college you went to thereafter?
Yeah, sure. So I went to Charles Flowers High School, go Jags. It's in Springdale, Maryland, so it's in Prince George's County.
Okay.
And I went to college at University of Maryland College Park.
Awesome. Yes, and actually that's where I went as well, and that's where I met Joey.
Yeah,
that's where our path intersected. So nice to see you again. Yeah. So in college, a lot of people try and navigate their path. They try and figure out what major, should I be, what track should I be going on, etc. So did you have a problem, navigating your path, or did you already know what you wanted to do?
Well, I did have problems navigating my path because when reality hit and it was, I realized that I didn't want to be what I was going to school for. So when I was in high school, I thought I want to be a doctor or athletic trainer. I was in sports, and I said this would be a great way for me to connect with people and be around sports because I wasn't going to be able to compete at the college level in athletics. So, and I like helping people. But what happened was I met this thing called freshman chemistry, and it kind of derailed my plans a bit. And I said, well, if I don't have this passion for chemistry at the entry level, and then after chemistry there's organic chemistry and bioorganic chemistry and molecular chemistry and all that just to get into pre-med, so you can go to medical school, then I was like, okay, well maybe something needs to change. So I was still pursuing my undergrad degree in kinesiology, which is exercise science. But about my junior year, I made a plan to myself, and I said, all right, well, when I find out what I want to do, I'll finish out my undergrad so that I don't add more years on to undergrad, but I'll just go straight into grad school for what I wanted to do. So that turned out to be HR, so human resources. And I was able to find a school, University of Maryland University College, which was an online program, so I could get my degree online. I didn't have to show up to class because my life was still super busy even after graduating.
Exactly.
I also, the first job that I had out of college, I made sure that it had some HR responsibilities so that I could grow in tandem where I have HR work experience but also HR graduate experience as well. So the undergrad degree, it still helps when I'm in the gym and when people ask, tips about training and fitness and health and stuff like that. But the degree that I use most is the graduate degree.
In HR. So let me stop you first. Can you tell me about when your path intersected with the human resources field, and just when did you find out that you had a passion for it, or how did you go about navigating that? I think that's what people really want to hear, right?
So it's not so much that I had a passion for HR because, to be honest, before college I didn't even know that the field existed. I didn't realize that there were people at companies that made sure that paychecks were paid on time, that hiring was done the right way, that terminations were done the right way, that focus on training and development, that focus on benefits. I had no idea that these things even existed. So it was a little a roundabout way how I got there is I was also doing temp jobs in the summer, so working with staffing agencies. They'd send me down to DC and work in an office. And so I said, well, I'm passionate about helping people. I was managing my band at the time, and so I like business. And I wanted to be in a field where I could help people, help a business, and not feel like I'm tied down to a desk all the time. And so in exploring careers, there's a website called ONET for folks that want to find out jobs and different types of occupations and the prospects of those. ONET, it's by the Department of Labor.
Okay.
So I found HR. My sister-in-law, she does HR, so I talked to her. Some people at my church at the time were in HR, so I talked to them. And I said, all right, this sounds like a cool career. So I had the mindset that I wanted to do HR as a profession, but it took a few years when I realized that I actually wanted to do it as my own business.
Okay, so it sounds like, you know, again, you were exposed to the human resources field, and like you stated that, you know, you didn't even know that it was something where you could actually do it as a career.
Yeah.
So when that idea actually came up, right, how did you think about forming your own business or forming your own company? Because I think a lot of people, they definitely want to know, hey, like, how do I go about this, right? A lot of us have ideas, but the difference is that some people execute and go the extra length to actually, you know, pan out or walk through those ideas, right? So,
Sure, yeah.
So just give us a little feedback about what your thought process was. So you had this idea and you were like, I want to start my own company. You know, what did that even look like? When did that idea come to you that you wanted to own your own business?
Yeah. So the idea of doing Jumpstart, Jumpstart HR, came after college. And when I graduated from college, one of the first things I did in growing my HR experience was I started connecting with mentors.
Okay.
And I created a company, some people may remember it, but it's called Push Consulting Group.
Yes.
And it was a resume writing company, and I knew that it wasn't going to be something that I could do full time.
Okay.
But what I said was, okay, well, let me create this company and learn the ins and outs of marketing, of business development, of customer satisfaction, and the finances of running a business. And also, my grad degree was great because as I was studying HR classes, you also had to take management classes.
Right.
So, like, you know, accounting, finance, all those the boring parts, you know, to me, but they're really very critical. So once I got to running Push, and I saw that I was coming to the end of that, like I wasn't going to sustain it anymore, I started to also realize that at the places where I was working, there was a huge difference between how HR is run in a small business and how HR is run at larger scale businesses,
right,
where there's a lot of focus on strategy, there's a lot of focus on people development, whereas in smaller companies, it's more about, you know, have we updated our handbook, are people getting paid on time, do people submit the right forms? So it's more paperwork oriented than it is actually growth oriented. And in going through my studies in school and going through, you know, just real life and networking with people and seeing what's really possible, attending conferences, talking to mentors, all that type of stuff, I saw that, you know, there's a great opportunity to solve the problem of the lack of strategic HR in small businesses and not just do it at one company, but have an impact on multiple companies.
Okay.
So that's how I started the business.
Okay, and did you, you obviously didn't have formal training in terms of building a business, right, and expanding it. So can you talk a little bit about how that process was for you? Like, did you have a mentor that helped you, that said, hey, this is the paperwork that you need to fill out in order to even establish your own business?
Yeah.
Can you kind of just touch a little bit on that? Because I think starting a business can be a daunting thing, right? So a lot of people can often say, I want to start it, but then when they take the steps toward it, they don't know exactly that they need a ground foundation. So can you just talk a little bit about that?
All right. Well, one of my favorite quotes about building a business is Reid Hoffman's quote. And Reid Hoffman is the founder of LinkedIn.
Okay.
And he said, starting a business is like jumping off a cliff and building a parachute on the way down. So it's really, really, really tough to, like, there are questions that even now that I should probably be asking that I don't even know to ask, right?
Okay.
And there's so much more of that when you're starting out. But what was helpful for me was that I'm just a passionate learner, period. So if there's something that I want to do, I'm on YouTube, I'm reading blogs, I'm reading books, I'm on social media, finding people that are successful at what I want to do, and then pulling some of their strategies behind it. Another thing was to have mentors. So one of my mentors actually became my first customer. And he's got his own HR practice. and we never really talk about the nuts and bolts of like creating a business and all that. We pretty much talk about strategy. Okay. But what I found was that if you go to a government website and it's usually the Department of Assessment and Taxation and all that. They'll show you how to form a business. And you can just type into Google. Google is your friend. YouTube is your friend.
This is a little shout out to Google.
Yeah, so all you have to do is type in how to start a business in Maryland, Texas, Virginia, wherever you're tuning into, and use that as a starting point for the nuts and bolts of the business.
Okay, very good. So, talk about, you mentioned that your mentor was actually one of your first clients. Yep. Talk about how that felt in that moment, right? So you finally landed your first client. So first of all, how long did it take to land your first client? And did you feel prepared? Were there things looking back now that you're like, oh my gosh, I should have done that I didn't know to do?
Yeah.
So talk about just that experience in that moment. Like, how did you feel?
Okay. Well, I felt relieved because I left the place where I was working, and I went to my mentor's office. That was like the first place I went, right? And we talked about it, and he was like, okay, well, are you ready? And I was like, yeah, I'm ready. He was like, all right, well, show up tomorrow. I'll give you something to do. And so there was a project that he had already needed help on, so I just became essentially like a subcontractor for his business. And talk about the whole building the parachute on the way down thing. It wasn't like this indefinite project. It had a start date and it had an end date. And so one day he came to me and was like, okay, all right, we're landing this plane soon, and you're gonna, there's no more work on this particular project. So as I was working that, I also had to network. I also had to go on websites where you could find clients. I had to, get the courage to send out emails and mailings to people and let them know that, hey, I've got this new company and this is what we do. So there was a whole bunch of that.
Just to stop you real quick, what did you think was the best avenue in terms of gaining clients? Because I think that's a part where a lot of people struggle.
Yeah.
They maybe might approach someone and then they get the door shut in your face, right? So what was the best avenue that you found for yourself? For each person it might be different, but for yourself, what would you recommend to people?
Well, there is a book called Build Your Well Before You're Thirsty. And so the whole premise of it is, and this is what worked for me, was to have a network of people that you can tap into before there's ever a need. So the last thing you want to do is be at a place of desperation, and you're knocking on your friend's door, knocking on your family saying, hey, I have to do this, I need this done, can you help me out? That puts all your close people in an awkward position because they're like, we don't know if it's really fleshed out yet. We support you, but we don't know if we can support your business. So it's a little bit of that. So having mentors before you take that leap, having friends that are supportive before you take that leap, plugging into a community of people that might be your client before you take that leap is important. And then for people that are looking to maybe start part-time or do a side hustle before they go into attempting to do it long-term, I'd say, run your numbers of how much you need to pay your rent, put gas in your car, all that stuff, and then work backwards and say, okay, I need to make X amount of dollars from my business. So I need to sell these types of products at this amount. I need to offer these services to this number of people at this amount of money. And so then you can really start to say, okay, well, is this a reality or is it just a dream? And what steps do you need to do to make that happen?
That's really great advice, because I think a lot of people, they in their head think, hey, I can start my business and start making $100K, right? But then when reality sets in, it's very, very different actually.
Yep. So true.
Yeah. So you had mentioned that obviously you were subcontracting for your mentor.
Yep.
Can you just tell me about he was your first client, but what was that time lapse, right? So you left your current position at the time, and then you ended up hooking up, I guess, with him in terms of being a subcontractor for his company. Yeah. What was that time gap like?
The time gap from when I left my company to when I got started with him was essentially probably 12 hours because, I left I left the place I was working, and then I started with him the next day.
Wow.
So,
okay.
Thankfully, that was a great situation there. And then as far as the time gap from the start of that project to the end of it, it was anywhere from a month and a half to about 2 months or so. So I had that bit of runway to try to do more business development and get more clients. Now, we've since then partnered on some things since the 6-year time that I've been in business. But that initial project was a huge, huge, huge help.
Okay,
Yeah.
awesome. So, something that I'm sure other people would want to know is in regards to successes and failures, right? So you take this brave call to start your own business, and you end up partnering with your mentor, right? And he gives you the opportunity. But then a lot of people obviously hit roadblocks.
Yep.
So along the process, where did you feel like you hit a roadblock? Or, what were your successes? What were your peaks and your valleys?
Sure.
And how did you handle that?
Well, I'll preface this by saying I may not even touch on them all, because a good entrepreneur is one who will just throw as much water under the bridge as possible. And what I mean by that is when you have obstacles, you just hit them head on and then you just keep moving. Because otherwise, if you harp on it,
Right.
then your customers don't care if you had a bad day. Your family's not gonna, or your family cares, but you at the end of the day, you have to perform. So what were some stumbling blocks? Getting clients is always a stumbling block.
Yes, I think that's a big one.
When people tell you no, there was a time where, and I'm so grateful, I've got a really awesome network of friends, where I lost one of the biggest clients, one of the largest clients that I had at the time. And by largest, I meant like monthly revenue.
Okay.
And I called one of my friends who's also in entrepreneurship, and I was like, hey, this company's not doing so well, and as a result, they're not going to be using my services anymore, which can happen in small business. And they said, okay, well, all right, you know what you got to do? Go out and get more clients, and you'll be fine. And so I was like, all right, yeah, that's all I need to hear. And then you just go out and you get more clients. So I say all that to say, regardless of what obstacle comes, and I'd be happy to chat if there's anyone that has a specific obstacle that they're worried about, but you've just got to get to the solution as quickly as possible, and once you find the solution, just keep moving forward.
Okay, good advice, very good advice. So another thing, let's just shift gears a little bit, right? So, I can't call you newlywed anymore because I think you've been married, over a year now?
Yeah,
right?
about a year and a half. Yeah,
awesome.
Oh, almost 2 years.
Almost 2 years.
Yeah,
Congrats on that.
Thank you.
So how do you balance being as young as you are, right, starting your business and getting clientele and all that stuff? How do you balance a new, marriage, right, and then a network of friends and everyday life, and then just balance, I guess, staying afloat in terms of your company? How do you do that?
So, I guess let's go back a bit. And when I started in my company, I was like dead broke. And so I made a promise to myself. I was like, well, I'm not going to start dating until I'm actually making money, because I didn't want to be freeloading on anybody, and it's just the right thing to do, right?
I think all the ladies out there on Facebook Live love that.
Yeah, so I was like, all right, well, I'm going to give myself an opportunity to make some money, and if this doesn't work, I'll just go and get a job. Okay. And then also a bit of context, like I've been in business for about 6 years now, so I did date, here and there, and obviously got married about 2 years ago, but through that, the company had been healthy, profitable, growing, and I've been able to be conservative with like my spending, making sure that I don't blow all the money that I bring in, because you never know what's going to happen. So you asked me about juggling marriage and juggling friends and juggling church and juggling family and juggling going to the gym.
All that stuff.
Yeah, it's a huge juggle. The most important thing, if you're talking about a spouse, like if you're dating and entrepreneurship is your vision, find someone who naturally, like their lifestyle naturally supports the kind of lifestyle that you're looking to build. So I travel a lot. So my wife is okay with me traveling.
Yeah.
You know, that means more time she can, you know, sit on the couch and enjoy her TV shows and clean and do the things that she enjoys doing inside the house. And she also loves traveling too. So when she come with me, you know, we have a good time. That's probably the most important thing. Find somebody who is supportive. As far as juggling, like going to the gym and stuff, I have to keep a calendar. And if it's not on my calendar, it's not going to get done. Okay. So I've got to put on there, go to the gym. I've got to put on there, go to sleep. I've got to put on there.
Go to sleep? That's
yeah. Because, I mean, you can get so sucked into what you're doing that, like, you know, it's 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock.
Right.
But it's important to set boundaries and goals and have blocks of time. So I talked about this on one of my podcasts that's coming out on soon with Damian Lupo. But, like, when you have a schedule, it frees up your brain so much that, like, you know, all right, well, when I'm in this block of time, I only have to focus on this. I have time set aside for other things.
Okay.
So managing a healthy calendar is probably the best tip I can give for juggling wherever you are in life.
Yes, I agree with that. I'm a planner at heart, so I'm all about Google Calendar or whatever calendars people use.
And I'm not a planner at heart, so I had to learn that a calendar is helpful.
Yes, it definitely is. So talk about the open doors that you've had. Okay, so I know that you are the face, or I feel like you're the face of UMUC. And yes, I'm sure you guys have caught some of his commercials, and you've seen him, Mr. Joey Price.
Yeah.
So what other open doors have you had? What other interviews? You mentioned podcasts. So what are you doing with your podcast, and what message you want to kind of send out to people?
Sure.
Are there any other projects that you're currently working on?
Sure. So the podcast is called Business, Life, and Coffee. And
they can get it where?
They can get it on iTunes. You can get it on Google Play. You can get it on Podbean. You can get it on Stitcher Radio, and also on SoundCloud. So if you just Google Business, Life, and Coffee, then it'll come up. Okay. And it's personal development for busy professionals. So I sit with an expert. They could be an expert in finance. They could be an expert in business, social media, health, you name it. And for about 15 to 30 to 45 minutes, we're just talking. And I'm asking them questions about, you know, how do you prioritize? You know, what tips do you have for marketers? What tips do you have for entrepreneurs, et cetera, et cetera? And so we just get really good conversation in the time it takes for you to enjoy a cup or two of coffee.
Oh, that's cool.
All right, yeah, so that's the whole business, life, and coffee. We're not selling coffee. That's not in the marketing plan at this point, but who knows down the road. But it's really about the sense of community that you get when you're in a coffee shop and you're talking with friends or you're talking with a mentor. So that's what I'm doing there. And you asked about doors that have opened up.
Yes.
I'll tell you this. Some doors open because you knock on them. And it's not just the fact that you've earned some accolades or some status. Like, you still have to knock on them and say, hello, this is me. You know, this is what I bring to the table. So, for example, in 2013, I was nominated and awarded for Baltimore Business Journal Top 40 Under 40. Wow. And what I did from there was I created a press release, and I went to different places and said, hey, I just got this award, pretty cool. I tailored it for the audience, so like for UMUC.
Right.
Bringing this full circle. So for UMUC, I said, hey, UMUC grad, class of 2011, wins Baltimore Business Journal Top 40 Under 40 award. Okay. So that turned into, hey, let's have lunch. And then that turned into, hey, do you want to do this marketing campaign with us? And that turned into showing up and doing videos I thought were just going to be for YouTube. Right. But then it turned out to be like this whole national TV campaign.
Yes,
and it won a few awards for them. So
that's so awesome.
Yeah. But sometimes you got to knock on the doors as opposed to waiting for them to open or expecting that somebody's going to just up and recognize what you do.
Okay, awesome. So I guess another thing I would like to kind of touch on is just in terms of just advice you would give a young entrepreneur that's maybe discouraged right now and that's like, man, I've tried this I don't know how many times and it's failed. Should I pick up another business? Should I try another idea? What advice do you have?
Well, if it's a good idea and you vetted that through mentors and you know the marketplace of where you're selling, and you think that your idea really can help people, I'd say just refine your business plan. Take a look at everything and see whether or not, maybe your marketing is wrong, maybe your pricing is off, maybe you need to go and increase the quality of what you're offering. And I'd also say as encouragement, like the best part about being a young entrepreneur is that you're young. I mean, so many people will wait until their late 30s, their 40s, their 50s or 60s to start a company that they've always dreamed about. And I told myself, I said, I would rather start a company when I'm 25 and at 35 I'll have 10 years of experience than to start a company at 35 and have no years of experience.
Yes.
So you get to have a relationship with your market. You get to listen and understand what's going on with like the changes of your industry. As long as you stick with it, you'll get to understand the cycles. You'll understand, how does the economy relate to my business? So like if the economy is doing well, what does that mean? What kind of customers can I target? If the economy is doing bad, what kind of customers can I target? So, and what type of services and products can I offer? So you start to have those relationships and you meet people that can help you in your journey. So my advice for the young entrepreneurs is just to start, do, revise, get better, build relationships, and listen. Check out Josie's vlogs because she's gonna have more good advice for you.
Yeah, sounds good. Also, I've been one of the prior video blogs that I had was on Dear Younger Self.
Okay. So
if you could look back, and there's no particular time period, but if you could look back, knowing what you know now, in terms of business, relationship, everything, what would you say to your younger self? Or what would you say to someone that is currently in the place that you were in before? What would you say, dear younger self? And Joey would say?
That's a tough question. But what I will say to my younger self in college is probably to focus on networks more. Focus on the relationships that you'll have with people. When I was in my online classes, I showed up to my discussions, I did what I needed to do, and that was it. But I didn't really get to meet the people in my class. So the younger me would say, tap into your network and see how you all can help one another. My younger me in like elementary school, the nerd that was reading books all the time, I'd say keep reading books because leaders are readers, and it's the inquisitive people that really change the world and ask the right questions and bring the right solutions to the table. So I'd say life definitely gets good as long as you stay the course and don't be afraid to be a nerd, especially kids that are like focusing on STEM and computer programming and like want to be techies. I mean, we're all going to work for a techie at some point.
Right, that's
the way that things are going with automation and AI and robots and stuff. So I'd say position yourself to be the person that programs the robots, and maybe you own your own fleet of robots, and that's what I'd say.
Okay, so just in wrapping up, is there just one takeaway that you give to the audience out there in terms of just anything in regards to entrepreneurship? Just one takeaway.
Yeah.
If, let's say, they listened to this whole interview and it went all above their heads, what is one thing that you would say to remember?
Well, you know what? Honestly, I'm glad you said that about things going over your head, because entrepreneurship is not for everybody. Just like being a doctor is not for everybody, or being a lawyer is not for everybody, or being an accountant is not for everybody. You really have to be crazy enough to do it because of all of the hurdles and challenges that can come, and the impact that it can have on you. So I'd say for one takeaway is evaluate whether or not you want to be an entrepreneur, and if you have this thing tugging at you saying, I want to own a business, then ask yourself why. So if your why is because you want to make more money, well, there's other ways you can make more money. If your why is because you want to help people, well, now we're going down the right path and say, okay, well, you want to help people. Well, what problems do you want to solve? Because a business person, how do I say this? Money is a byproduct of success. So if you want to be successful in helping people,
right,
then you'll achieve the revenue and money that you're looking for, because it's just a byproduct. Like people, you go to McDonald's because you want a hamburger. So when they get to 1 billion hamburgers sold and have like this multinational enterprise, it's because they were good at selling hamburgers that people wanted. It's not that they wanted to,
just
make a lot of money.
Yeah.
So always think about like why you want to do what you want to do, and if it's to be an entrepreneur, think about what problems you want to solve, and like how you want to make the world a better place.
Awesome. I know I said that was the last question, but I actually have something that I definitely
bonus coverage.
Yes, bonus coverage. Yes. So I wanted to also actually, in terms of you're getting all these opportunities, or you're knocking on the doors like you were talking about prior. How does one stay humble, right? Because I think a lot of what happens is, especially being a young person, you can get excited.
Yeah.
And you can say, wow, all these people are knocking on my doors, all these opportunities, right?
Yeah.
And before you know it, maybe arrogance, comes knocking at your door.
Yeah.
So how do you stay humble and amidst everything in terms of a growing career, income, climbing year after year, like you mentioned prior, being top 40 businesses in Baltimore and under the age of 40.
Yeah.
How do you maintain that integrity and maintain that humility?
This is such a great question, because the answer is that it could all go away overnight. When you're an entrepreneur, and whether you serve people or create products and stuff, you always have like this weight that's kind of sitting on your shoulders that says, what if all my customers decide they don't want to be my customers anymore? Then what? Or if you messed up something with paperwork, or like if you got in trouble with an illegal matter, or if you had an unsatisfied customer that's like, oh, I'm going to sue your pants off and take your business.
Scary.
Not to scare anybody, but these are some of the reasons why people don't make it long term. So you always have to have humility, because and also don't make the mistake of like paying yourself this really high salary so that there isn't enough money to like run the business.
That's good advice.
Yeah, on the podcast with Damien, one of the pieces of advice he shared, because he's run 30 businesses over the past 25 years.
Wow.
And not all of them have been successful, but he said, stay broke until you're rich. That's like that'd be another takeaway, and I'm stealing it from him.
Yeah,
but it's true. Stay broke until you're rich, because think about this: you get a big contract, or you make a lot of money in 1 year, and you say, "All right, I want to go buy a nice car, or I want to go get the largest house that I can afford based on last year's earnings."
Okay.
Well, who's to say next year is going to be just as good, right?
Very true.
Who's to say that there isn't going to be like some natural disaster that affects your home or your business, or some health challenge that comes up. So all things in moderation. Like just draw a salary that you can afford to live on, and save money aside. Invest back into your business. So like upgrade your technology, upgrade your marketing, upgrade your business processes. I hope I answered the question.
You did answer the question.
All right.
So, how can people...
Wait, also, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, please.
I have to also acknowledge, like, having a strong faith.
Yes,
as the most important thing, because there are a lot of principles that you learn through faith that translate into business. So, if you want to know how to run a business, you can just read, like, the book of Proverbs, right? If you're Christian.
Very true, yes.
But yeah, having that as the base, my faith as a base, as a Christian, and then from that becomes the filter from which I see the rest of the world.
That's good. That's very, very good. Thanks for sharing that.
Cool.
So, how can people reach you? And again, just a plug about your services really quickly, and the things that you're doing.
So Jumpstart HR outsourcing for small businesses and startups. If you are a business owner that needs extra help with HR, but don't have the means to bring on a full-time person, you can reach us at jumpstart-hr.com. Also, I've got the podcast, Business, Life, and Coffee. So we have expert guests. If you are an expert and you want to reach out to us, tweet me at joeyvpricehr, or the Twitter handle for the podcast is bizlifecoffee. That's B-I-Z Life Coffee. And hopefully you can include all this in the show notes and stuff.
Yes, I will.
But the website for Jumpstart is jumpstart-hr.com. And the website for the podcast is businesslifeandcoffee.com. And also on SoundCloud, Podbean, iTunes, and all that stuff.
And on Instagram, I know you have
Instagram, yes. Instagram, I'm also joeyvpricehr. And the podcast is Business, Life, and Coffee. And the Jumpstart page is Jumpstart HR. That's on Instagram and Twitter.
And we will put this all in the notes. So, again, thank you, Joey, so much for meeting with me. Thank you, the viewers of The Young Experience. I am on Instagram, The Young Experience. That's my name on there. And we're just talking to real people and, just hearing their stories. So this particular episode was, of course, about young local entrepreneurs. You're doing awesome. Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
And you guys check out this guy right here and hit him up if you have any questions or even for services, okay?
Yeah.
All right. See you guys later.